Welcome back viewers, hope you all are doing absolutely fine. So in this particular video I am going to discuss digestion of food. In the previous video I discussed about the associated glands and the alimentary canal. The link is in the description box, please watch it. And please, before starting this video, I would like to say please like, share and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the notification icon. Now let's start. So the process of digestion is accomplished by mechanical and chemical process, as I already told this point. Now we are going to see this thing in detail. So what is happening here? The buccal cavity performs two major functions, that is mastication of food and facilitation of swallowing. The two functions are done with the help of teeth, tongue, right? Teeth and tongue. So by the muscular motion of or movement of tongue and the teeth, which will help in mastication, and the secretion of saliva from the salivary glands, they all together adhere the masticated food, and particle is converted, the complex food particle get converted into the bolus. So mucus which is present within the saliva is providing lubrication, and also it is sticking the masticated food so that it can easily be swallowed. Now swallowing is also known as deglutition. Now the bolus further passes down through the esophagus by successive wave of muscular contraction called peristalsis. So this peristalsis movement I already discussed, that this is a wave of contraction that pushes the food along. Now next, what is happening here? The gastroesophageal sphincter controls the passage of food into the stomach. So basically they are regulating the opening and closing of the esophagus. The saliva secreted into the oral cavity, it contains electrolyte like sodium, potassium, chlorine and bicarbonate, and enzyme salivary amylase. Now salivary amylase, they are secreted by salivary glands, and these salivary glands or salivary amylase which are secreted, the enzymes, they are initiating, they are the initiator of digestion, because we are talking about the breakdown of complex food substances. Now with the mastication, there is a need of enzyme. So mucus and this salivary amylase, which is secreted by the glands or salivary gland, it will help in breaking down of carbohydrates. So first thing which will broke down, you can write it somewhere, that first thing which is going to be broke down from their complex food is the carbohydrates, and with the help of salivary amylase, which is the initiator of digestion. So you can see here enzymes, salivary amylase and lysozymes. Now lysozymes are having role as an antibacterial agent, or they play a defensive role so that there may no infection occur while eating, or no foreign particles other than food get inserted into the digestive tract. So it is checked by lysozymes, they are having defensive role. Now the chemical process of digestion is initiated in the oral cavity, as we had seen here, by the hydrolytic action of the carbohydrate splitting enzyme. So salivary amylase are the enzymes for carbohydrate splitting. Now next is the salivary amylase. So salivary amylase, they almost hydrolyze 30% of the starch, and starch are basically polysaccharides. So 30% of the polysaccharides are broken down by salivary amylase. Now amylase are having pH which is 6.8, not very much acidic it is, and the lysozymes, they are having an antibacterial agent and prevent infections. So here we can see the reaction, that starch within the presence of salivary amylase, it is getting converted into maltose. Now maltose are the disaccharides, and they are having 2 glucose molecules. They are the disaccharides. Next is the mucosa of stomach has gastric gland. Now, gastric glands have three major type of cells, and namely mucus neck cells, which secretes mucus, peptic or chief cells. Chief cells are the major cells and they secrete the proenzymes pepsinogen. Now pepsinogen, they are inactive enzymes, or we also call them proenzymes. So pepsinogen, or we also call them zymogen. So chymotrypsinogen, pepsinogen, zymogen, they all are inactive enzymes. So role of peptic, it is to break down protein. Now next we are going to see parietal and oxyntic cells. Now parietal and oxyntic cells, they secrete hydrochloric acid. Now peptic cells, we had seen that they have inactive enzymes, and along with the parietal or oxyntic cells, what will happen in when HCl will get secreted. Now when HCl is getting secreted, this pepsinogen is getting converted into active enzyme for the breaking down of protein. So we can write it here that pepsinogen, this pepsinogen is an inactive enzyme, and in the presence of HCl, it will get converted into pepsin. Now this pepsin and HCl, they both have pH around 1.8 to 2. They are highly acidic, and this pepsin is going to break down protein. This will break the protein. So they both have optimum temperature. So this is, by this we can say that pepsinogen may have some more pH than 2. So in inactive stage, the pH may be more than 2, and when it get activated, the pH get reduced, that is, it becomes highly acidic. Now gastric glands, we are able to understand that what is parietal, oxyntic cells, mucus secreting cells, and peptic cells. Now all these three cells above, they form gastric juices. And one thing more here is intrinsic factors. Now these factors are very much essential for the absorption of vitamin B12, and vitamin B12 are mainly helping in the synthesis of blood. Now next is stomach. So stomach stores the food for 4 to 5 hours. The food mixes thoroughly with the acidic gastric juice of the stomach by the churning movement of its muscular wall, and it is called chyme. Now churning movement. Now bolus, which is formed in the oral cavity, the bolus will be blended along with the gastric juices, and this blending, more blending of that bolus, because bolus is not the finest particle which is to be absorbed by the body. It has to be more blended, more crushed. So that is facilitated in by the churning movement along with the gastric juices, and this churning movement is facilitated by the muscular wall and called chyme. The proenzyme pepsinogen, yes, the proenzyme pepsinogen on exposure to hyaluronic acid gets converted into active enzyme. I had shown you this thing here. I had shown you this thing over here, that how pepsinogen in active form in exposure to HCl, they are getting converted into pepsin. The pepsin converts, and now what will happen? Hydrolytic get converted into active enzyme pepsin. The proteolytic enzymes are those enzymes that break down the protein of the stomach. The pepsin converts protein pepsin. So pepsin is going to convert protein into proteoses and peptones, which are peptides. The mucus and bicarbonate present in the gastric juice plays important role in replication and protection of the mucosal epithelium by excoriation by the highly concentrated hydrochloric acid. Now the mucus and bicarbonates, they are having a very important role. One of the role we already know that it is helping in lubrication. Other what it is providing a preventive sheet or layer, we can say, that protect it from the connection with hydrochloric acid, which is very acidic, and what it may do, it can damage the organ system. So this is needed to be protected. This mucous epithelium helps in protecting the stomach from highly acidic hydrochloric acid, which is 1.8. And excoriation means damage. You can note it somewhere. Pepsin are having pH optimum to HCl, that means they are 1.8 to 2, right? So these pepsins are very acidic. So renin is a proteolytic enzyme found in gastric juice of infant, which helps in the digestion of milk protein. Small amount of lipases are also secreted by the gastric glands. Now renin are also known as chymosins. So you can write it somewhere. Renin or chymosin. Now they are present in gastric juice and it breaks milk protein. Like pepsins, they are also synthesized from the chief cells. So pepsins are synthesized from the chief cells because we can see here that by the activation of pepsinogen, we are getting pepsin. So the renin are also synthesized from these chief cells. So renin are the active form of protein, active enzyme from protein. Renin are active enzyme for milk protein. And here we have some lipase which hydrolyzes fats. Now various type of movements are generated by the muscularis layer of the small intestine. The movement help in a thorough mixing of the food with various secretion in the intestine and thereby facilitate digestion. Now small intestine is the major part where the most of the absorption is going to occur, and highly mixing of the food particle will take place here. Now the bile, pancreatic juice and the intestinal juice are the secretions that are released into the small intestine. So here is the main absorption process is going to take place, and with the help of hepatopancreatic duct, we had already seen that hepato includes both cystic duct of gallbladder and liver duct. Along with the pancreatic duct, they all are having a common opening and they facilitate the movement of bile from the duct into the duodenum. So duodenum, we know that it is a part of small intestine or superior part of the small intestine. And the secretion of bile, pancreatic juice and intestinal juice are the secretion released in the small intestine. Now pancreatic juice and biles are released through the hepatopancreatic duct. The pancreatic juice contains inactive enzymes, trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogens, procarboxypeptidases, amylases, lipases, nucleases. So these are so many enzymes that are present within the pancreatic juice in its inactive form, lipases, nucleases. Or trypsinogen is activated by enzyme enterokinase. Now trypsinogen is an inactive protein, or chymotrypsin, again it is an inactive protein. So these proteins are activated by the enzyme known as enterokinase, and these enterokinase secreted by the intestinal nucleus, the active form will be trypsin. So trypsinogen is an inactivated form. So let me write it over here. Trypsinogen. inactive. Activated by enterokinase enzyme. So these are the enzymes that activates trypsinogen in pancreatic juice and convert them into trypsin. So trypsin is an active form. Which in turn activates the other enzyme in the pancreatic juice. The bile released into the duodenum contain the bile pigment, that is bilirubin and biliverdin, bile salts, cholesterols and phospholipids, but they have no enzyme. So this is very important. They have no enzyme. The biles have no enzymes, rather they have pigments like bilirubin and biliverdin, salts, bile salts, cholesterols, etc. Now next is bile helps in emulsification of fat, that is breaking down of the fat into very small micelles. Biles also activates lipases. Now breaking down of fat into small micelles so that the digestive enzymes which are soluble can act over. So this is important to break down the lipids. And bile also activate lipases that are present in pancreatic juice to cleave the fatty acids. Now, the intestinal mucosal epithelium has goblet cells that secrete mucus. The secretion of the brush border cells of the mucus along with the secretion of the goblet cells. So the two are going to help in synthesizing now secretion of succus entericus, which is intestinal juice. Now what is brush border? So basically they are covering the microvilli. They are covering sheet for microvilli that are providing finger-like projection, and over that finger-like projection which is formed by microvilli, these brush border are providing a sheet or covering. Though they, along with the goblet cells, they form intestinal juice or secretes intestinal juices, which is also known as succus entericus. Now this juice contains a variety of enzymes like disaccharidases, that is maltase. So we know that if maltase is broken down, which is a disaccharide, it will get converted into a monosaccharide, which is glucose molecules. Dipeptidases, lipases, nucleosidases, etc. The mucus along with the bicarbonate from the pancreas protects the intestinal mucosa from acid as well as provide the alkaline medium, which is 7.8 for enzymatic activities. So again we can see here that mucus along with the bicarbonate, they are protecting it from the exposure of hydrochloric acids and to prevent excoriation. Now next is submucosal glands, which is also known as Werner glands, also help in this. Now submucosal gland or Werner glands, they protect from the acidic content and provides alkaline medium as well. Now both Werner's gland and mucus and bicarbonate all are helping to make it alkaline and prevent from the exposure of hydrochloric acid. Now proteins, proteoses and peptones, they are partially hydrolyzed protein in chyme. So we had seen that by the activation of pepsinogen into pepsin, these proteins get converted, that they are hydrolyzed up to 30%, and later when they reach to the small intestine, through the enzymes which are secreted from pancreatic juice, they are getting converted into dipeptides. Now the enzymes of the pancreatic juice for protein breakdown are chymotrypsin, right? Chymotrypsin is an active form, or trypsin is an active form, and inactive forms are chymotrypsinogen. When there is a gen, Gen, we say it is an inactive form. When it is Sin, trypsin, chymotrypsin, they are activated form of proteins gene enzyme, and they will get converted into dipeptides. into dipeptides. Next, we will see that carbohydrates in the chymes are hydrolyzed by pancreatic amylase, which are salivary amylase, into disaccharides, which is maltose. So this had occurred by salivary amylase, where the starch of polysaccharides got broken down by petylene. Call it PTYALIN. Next is fats. Fats are broken down by lipases with the help of bile into di and monoglycerides. Now the lipids first they will get broken down into the diglycerides, and later it will converted into monoglycerides. Next is nucleases. Now nucleases in the pancreatic juice act on nucleic acid to form nucleotides and nucleosides. So one of my video I had created on differences between nucleotides and nucleosides. The link is in the description box. You can watch it, that what is the difference between nucleotides and nucleosides. And this breaking down of nucleosides and conversion into nucleotides and nucleosides are done with the help of enzyme nucleases, which are helping in breaking of nucleic acids. Next is the enzyme in the succus entericus act on the end product of the above reactions to form respective simple absorbable form. Now these are the breakdown or absorbed form which are partially absorbed, but it has to be absorbed more into the intestine through the intestinal juice, which is succus entericus, and they act on the end product. So these are the end product. So these products further will be broken down into its more absorbable form. Now the final step in digestion occur very closely to the mucous epithelial cells of the intestine. Now here what we can see, the dipeptides protein, which was partially broken, with the help of dipeptidases enzymes, they will get converted into amino acids. Maltose, in the presence of maltase, we can see that glucose compounds are formed. Lactose, in the presence of lactase, glucose and galactose. So this is important, that galactose, which is a disaccharide, it is formed of one molecule of glucose and another molecule of galactose. And this is the breakage. On breakage, it gives one molecule of glucose and one molecule of galactose. Sucrose, sucrase, enzyme sucrase, glucose and fructose, the two compounds. Nucleotides further, with the presence of nucleotidases, it will get converted into nucleosides, and nucleosidases enzyme to break down nucleosides is nucleosidases. It will convert it into sugars and bases. Bases, we know that pyrimidine and nitrogenous bases, what we call. Di and monoglycerides, in the presence of lipases, they will get converted into fatty acids and glycerols. So fatty acid and glycerols are the most absorbable form. Then monoglycerides, which are the partially absorbed components. Next, the breakdown of biomacromolecules. So these are all the biomacromolecules which are present in a complex food substance, and from that complex food substance, which I had taken an example of a roti. So that roti is having biomacromolecules, and these are the most absorbable form of that roti which we had eaten. So proteins are getting breakdown into amino acid, carbs into glucose, galactose, glucose, sucrose will get broken down into glucose and fructose, nucleotides will get broken down into sugar and bases, and fatty acid and glycerol, these are all the most absorbable form. Next is the breakdown of biomacromolecule mentioned above occurs in the duodenum region of the small intestine. So we had already seen that the C shape or the superior portion of the small intestine is a place where the breakdown of these biomacromolecules are taking place. The simple substance thus formed and are observed in the jejunum and ileum region of the small intestine. Now they are further absorbed through jejunum and ileum, which are other parts of the small intestine. The undigested and unabsorbed food substances are passed on to the large intestine. So absorbed food will go to jejunum and ileum, and the undigested and unabsorbed substances, they will move into large intestine. So there is no such significant digestive activity that is occurring in large intestine. The function of large intestine are absorption of some water and minerals that are going to take place over here. Next is the secretion of mucus. Now what is mucus is doing here? It is lubricating and making the passage for waste material to be flushed out easily. So it is providing a lubrication for the waste material so that it can easily pass out or flush out. Now the undigested unabsorbed substances called feces enters into the cecum of the large intestine through ileocecal valve. Ileocecal valve, it prevents the backflow of the fecal matter from large intestine, and it is temporarily stored in the rectum till defecation. So till defecation it is stored into the rectum, and from the rectum it is further get flushed out through anus. Now next is the activities of the gastrointestinal tract are under neural and hormonal control for proper coordination of different part. So it is very true that there should be a coordinations between the humoral hormones and neural activities to perform different activities for digestion or digestive process. The sight, the smell or the presence of food in the oral cavity can stimulate the secretion of saliva. We have sensed it many times that by the smells only we say that the mouth is getting watery. So that is the secretion of saliva just by smelling the food, by the aroma of that food. Next is the gastric and intestinal secretion are also similarly stimulated by the neural signals. The muscular activities are very important for the passage of food, or that they are making wave construction for peristalsis movement as sphincter movements. So all these activities are very important, and neuromuscular activities taking part in the alimentary canal can also be moderated by neural mechanisms, both local and through CNS, central nervous system. Hormonal controls of the secretion of digestive juice is carried out by the local hormones produced by the gastric and intestinal mucosa. So there are hormones like gastrin or secretin that are present here, and they produced by the gastric and intestinal mucosa. So this is all from this video. In the next part I will discuss absorption of digestive products, and finally I will discuss about disorders of digestive system. So thank you for watching. Please hit the like button and share it as well.